And good afternoon, IHSA Football Nation. It's time now for episode 5 of The Dish, and we have a real special guest. Clint Cosgrove of National Preps, and also Prep Redzone, too. He's a writer now. Just thank you for being here, Clint.
Hey, I appreciate it, Coach. Always a pleasure hanging out with you, man.
Thank you so much. So what is your background in football? Give your full background.
So my background with football kind of starts when I was born. My upbringing was a little different. Whereas when I was born, I was born in Champaign, Illinois. My dad was coaching on Mike White's staff at University of Illinois. So that's kind of when it all started. I was one of those kids who begged my mom to take me to practice every day. She didn't get it. So I kind of fell in love with the game early. I would go to the office, hang out with my dad, evaluate recruits, go to practice as much as I could. So that's kind of how the game started with me. I grew up around it. My dad, luckily for me, I didn't have to move a lot. My dad was coaching at Wisconsin for a long time. So I grew up in Madison and, just developed a love for the game there. And it's kind of continued through my older years, I guess.
And you played Division I football at Minnesota, right? Or was it?
University of Wisconsin, and I didn't last long. Yeah, no, I didn't last long. I had multiple shoulder surgeries, and I ended up transferring to Arizona State, and I was medically DQ'd at that point, and I graduated from there, and then got back into football shortly after.
And where did you coach? Where have you coached before?
So my first job was quality control at University of Nebraska under Bill Callahan. He was the head coach there. I spent a season there. And then my dad was also the defense coordinator at Nebraska. I had a great experience there. We went to the Big 12 championship game. It was a fun year, but I also wanted to kind of get away from my dad. As much as I loved working for him, I wanted to get away and kind of, do my own thing. So I went to University of Minnesota. I spent 3 years there as a defensive graduate assistant and then assistant DBs coach. And then after that, I went to Dartmouth College, where I spent 2 years on staff there coaching on defense as well. So, my professional career is, right after graduating college, I went right into the coaching world, spent, 8 or so years there, and then got out and got into scouting.
Now, how'd you get into scouting?
So, my original plan was I had a lot of things that kind of happened in life as things do. When I was coaching at Dartmouth, my brother was actually playing at University of Minnesota, and he got diagnosed with cancer. And, it's one of those things where I'm preparing for a game each week, and I'm worried about my brother living, and I couldn't even go and say hi to him, go and see him. You start wondering, yes, I love what I'm doing, but is this more important than life itself? And you've dealt with cancer. You know what kind of shock that brings to you and kind of your whole thought process. And so my original plan was I was going to try to get out of football for a couple of years, get some business world experience, and then go back in to football. And then if at any point something wasn't right, or family member got sick or whatever it may be, at least I had that business experience to fall back on, and I was trying to get that at a young age. Well, I ended up getting out of football. I saw the job for National Prep Scouting on Football Scoop, followed up on that, met with the owner there, and it was kind of history, and that's how it really all began.
Now, what is National Preps?
So we are an NCAA approved scouting service. So basically, college teams pay us to do what they can't do, whether it be because of NCAA rules or, for some of the smaller schools, because we work with anything from, the highest Division I teams down to Division III. So for some schools, we're an extension of their personnel department. And then for other schools, we are their personnel department. Some of your D3 schools that, can't afford to send coaches on the road each week and everything like that. So our job is to go out and identify, evaluate, and gather information on prospects. So then when it's time for our teams to go on the road, or, to have junior days, camp invites, whatever it may be. They take all of our information, and that's kind of the starting point for them. So basically eyes on the road for schools that either can't afford to want a competitive advantage, or schools that are, limited by the NCAA rules.
What is the best way for a recruit to be noticed, in your feeling?
I would say, well, I mean, above all, you got to be a player. You got to be different than other players that are like you. A lot of kids, you see what the work that you're putting in and day out. You're seeing what's going around you. You're confident in your abilities and everything like that, and you work your tail off. But at the same time, these coaches, they're watching thousands of other prospects. So what I always say in the recruiting process is, you're looking for points of separation. How do I separate myself from players who are very similar to me in the recruiting process? And really, unless you're, one of those freaks of nature, 5-star, 6'6", 270-pound kid that run, the majority of players are going to be, somewhat similar. Obviously, there are variations of that. But your goal in recruiting is really to stand out. How do I separate myself from players that are similar to me? Is it what I do in the classroom? Is it my size? Is it my work ethic? Is it what I put on film? So when you're looking for ways to separate yourself, one of the big things that I say for the majority of prospects is make myself easy to be recruited. If I'm a coach and I come across a kid's name and I go and watch the film, but I can't get a hold of the coach, can't get a hold of the kid, doesn't have a Twitter, that does not make yourself easy to be recruited. If I've got two players that are very similar skill set wise, physically and everything like that, chances are, as a coach, when I've got a million things going on, I got to, coach my position group, I have to recruit my area, whatever it may be, I'm going to go with the guy who wants to be recruited, who's easier to be recruited. So that is one way to separate yourself. The other thing that I would say in getting noticed, you have to recruit the schools that you want to recruit you. And I would say that at any time, but with COVID, more now than ever, with coaches are limited how they can go on the road. They don't know their scholarship numbers necessarily because of all the new things happening. Recruit the schools that you want to recruit you. Be proactive, whether it be Twitter, whether it be email, picking up the phone. Make a connection with a coach. At the end of the day, when I'm trying, back to the point of separation, when I'm trying to decide, do I offer one of these three kids? Okay. First kid showed a little interest. He might be a little better football player. Average grades. Second kid showed a lot of interest. Grades aren't really where I'd like them to be. And then third kid showing interest, has good grades, and is similar athletically. As a coach, and just when you talk it out and you look at it, I mean, it's the path of least resistance. And not that you're looking for the easiest way in recruiting, but you are trying to maximize your time as a recruiting coach, and you're trying to better your roster in any way that you can. So, you have to look at it like a coach when you're being a recruit and you're thinking about, coaches are looking for reasons not to offer you. They're not looking for the bright side and, here's what, the more they dig. You got to be easy to recruit. Make yourself stand out, obviously, physically, athletically, film, grades, everything like that, but make yourself easy to recruit. I think it's a really big thing, especially now.
Now, what do you see, what mistakes are you commonly seeing with recruits that they're doing?
Yeah, I would say one of the big things is everybody puts their eggs in one basket. You'll see a lot of kids, they'll even get like an early D1 offer. And so they only focus on Division I teams after that. And then all of a sudden that school fills up and they didn't pay attention to any of the D2 schools that were recruiting them. And then come signing day, they're not left with anything. So I'd say one of the biggest things is be open. Nobody's ever said, this sucks to have this much opportunity.
Yeah.
Be open to as much opportunity as possible. And this is something that you talk a lot about, coaches. You never know where a college coach is going to be.
Yeah.
You never know who a college coach is friends with.
Yeah.
Coaches communicate. If I'm recruiting a kid and I was at a lower school and I was like, we have no chance at him, I'm going to tell my Division I friend about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the same at the end of the season, and this year's a little different, but a lot of time your D3, D2 coaches, whatever it may be, they're ending up at a different level. So what you're trying to do is maximize your opportunity. You have a small window of high school football, all right, to make an impression and to be recruited by a school that's going to give you a 4-year education and really, the next 40 years of your life. And so what you're trying to do is maximize that small amount of time and maximize the amount of opportunity that you have. So I think a lot of guys focus on this very small window when there's this much opportunity, and they end up losing out on a large percentage of the opportunity they otherwise would have had and could have leveraged at the end. If you have a one uncommittable D1 offer, that's not a lot of leverage. Whereas if you have multiple D2 offers, maybe one's books, one's tuition, one's 100%, you can leverage that into other opportunities. And a lot of people don't realize that. They're just looking at the level of play next to the school. And there's a lot of great opportunity out there. So maximize your opportunity. And like I said, you have very little amount of time to maximize your exposure.
Now, I know COVID has affected me with scouting and just doing articles and the whole shebang. How's COVID affected you?
It's been crazy, man. You get it. Like up until now, you always feel like, there's a timeline, there's an answer. This is what happens. If this doesn't happen, this is what you need to do. Right now, we're all playing it off the cuff. College coaches, they've never been through this. They don't know what the NCAA is going to say. The recruiting, high school coaches, they've never been through it. So there's a lot of what's going on, what's going to happen. And I think right now, as we're all learning from this, you just have to control what you can control. All right. Can I put out new information? Can I get better as a football player? Can I develop? Can I make myself a more recruitable athlete? So you've got a lot of different things happening in the Midwest. You have some states that are playing football. You have some states that are not. Okay, if I'm playing football, all right, technically that might give me a little advantage. My film gets out there earlier. I need to maximize that film exposure that other states aren't having. That's an important thing. Now, if I'm in a state that's not playing football, okay, how can I take my situation and make myself better for it since I cannot control all the variables in play? Well, I say, how many players, and Pete, you've seen it 100 times. You go from a kid who's, he's a borderline scholarship kid as a junior, and all of a sudden senior film, you're like, this guy's a dude.
Yeah.
All right. So if I'm not playing right now and I've got months to develop myself, I've got an opportunity to maybe put out senior film my junior year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've got that much more time to develop on kids who aren't necessarily working as hard and lifting in school. Yes, they're playing football. Yes, they're putting out film. But I've got to look at my situation. I can't control that. What can I control? And that's making yourself develop as much physically, athletically, academically, whatever it may be. Let's look at our current circumstance and take advantage of the cards that we were dealt. And I think that's, it's easy to get down. I'm getting frustrated right now. I haven't been through this. I'm used to during football season, this is what I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This is what I do Thursday and Friday. We're all playing it off the cuff. Yeah. And so I think you really have to look at your situation and say, how can I maximize the opportunity that I'm going to have instead of dwelling on the opportunity that I might not have?
Do you miss coaching at all?
It's funny. I have days where I'm like, I'm going to go back and coach tomorrow. Yeah. I have days where I'm like, I would never like to coach again. The longer I'm out of it, I would say the less that I'm like itching at it, but I never put it out of the realm of possibilities. I love what I'm doing. I love working for national preps. I love the flexibility, the quality of life. I love the opportunity to improve a lot of kids' lives. There's a lot of things I do miss. I miss, having a room full of kids that you can impact on a day-by-day basis. I miss game day. There's nothing more than I miss than game day. I wouldn't say that it will never happen, but it would have to be a perfect situation because I'm, as happy as you can be during all this COVID madness, I guess. It's a tough time to be a college coach. It's a tough time to do anything involved in this sport. And, one of the nice things about sports is it's always kind of been recession proof. Yeah. Great Depression, people are itching to get, freedom from that life. They're going to pay to go to a ball game.
Yeah.
After any natural disaster, whatever it may be, people come together for sports. So it's not something that's ever really hit the college football world. Well, we didn't see a pandemic happening. And, all of a sudden that's affecting teams' budgets. That's affecting the whole recruiting world. It's affecting how coaches have to go about their day by day. So it's a hard time to be a coach. And it's really easy as a prospect, I think, to become kind of nearsighted because you're worried about what's happening today, tomorrow, and everything like that. But there's just such a bigger picture that's out of your control right now.
Now, I want to do this because you were born to a coaching family and the whole spiel. But there's a lot of people that don't put a human picture on the coaching, that they have families and they have to, okay, this guy got fired. I'm happy he got fired. He sucked, blah, blah, blah. But they don't understand that it's tough on the family.
Yeah, no, it's really tough. A lot of people, whether you're on message boards or whatever it may be, they're like, oh, they make 200, 300,000, cry your way to the bank. Oh, well, that's fine for the coach. Like, if I was critiqued online or something like that when I was coaching, I had no problem with it. Yeah. I knew what I was signing up for. But when my dad got critiqued online or, people throwing a fit, like that hurts you as a kid because you want to protect your family member. You think about the whole thing a lot differently after you've grown up like that. I'll sit in the stands, especially like if I go to Bears games and I know that I'm sitting amongst family, whether it be players or coaches and stuff like that. And you hear people say stuff and it just, it takes a blow to you. It's a different deal. Now on the bright side, there's a lot of positives. I was going to Rose Bowls when I was younger. I was able to get into coaching. I was around a lot of great football players. I had opportunities that I would never had it not been for my dad coaching. So yes, there's some great things, but there's a lot of, for every coach that gets fired, there's 10 families that have to move. Yeah. There's a lot of trauma that goes along with that.
A lot of people don't understand that. That's the one thing that I want to talk about today.
Yeah, no, it hits you home. Like, I take my dad's career probably, harder than he does. If it was a bad game, I'm sitting there, I'm asking for the film. I want to watch it. Like, you're looking to protect your family. Yeah. And it can be hard, but you got to have thick skin at the same time. And, we're also very lucky to be, in these positions of critique.
Now, what advice would you give a young college coach? Just green, starting in college football. What advice would you give him?
Man, just meet as many people as possible. You never know who you're going to come across that ends up, having a ton of success. And not that you want to latch on to people because of success. What you want to do is no matter what level a coach is at, there is something that you can learn from them. Okay. So any coach that you can connect with, even if you can connect with the equipment manager and get some insight to how everything flows, the more contacts you can make, the more you can learn, the more people you can help out. Like, a big thing for me is a lot of people helped me to get to where I was in coaching, and anybody who I had a connection with, whether I could help them or not, I was going to at least try my hardest to do so. Because we're all in this together as coaches. We all have that dream of being at a big time school, doing a big time thing. That's not the reality for most coaches, but there are so many opportunities out there, and it is a great brotherhood of people. And I would say the biggest thing is it doesn't matter what level or what position, pick up, be a sponge, do as much as you can to learn from as many coaches as possible. Because a lot of the time, there's guys that when I was starting out that were even younger than me, and I look at where they're at now, and just some of the things that I take from them. There are guys who are not in the position of maybe, they're going to get up on a podium and everybody's going to listen to them word for word, but that doesn't mean that they don't have something to give. Sometimes you'll look back, the more coaches you meet, the more coaches you talk to, and you're kind of, learning things, writing them down, whatever it may be. And you're like, there's a couple guys who are going to stick out in your mind, like, that guy's going places, and had I not sat down and talked with them, I might not know that. And then, 5-10 years later, all of a sudden, that guy who you thought was going places, you got information from him, you connected with them, you learned from them, you probably shared some things that you know and taught them. You see where they're at, people are paying them to speak when you sat down for hours back in the day, you know, just getting to know them, developing a relationship and learning football. So the more you
Oh no. Yeah.
working, learning and having fun.
Do you have any funny coaching stories?
Do I have any what?
Do you have any funny coaching stories? Any funny?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, you spend 100 hours a week with people you're gonna let's see. I mean, most of them you keep in house.
Yeah.
I do remember one game. I'm not gonna say what school and where, but you know, we were losing in a game that we shouldn't. They were, you know, going up and down in the field on us, and it was kind of a pivotal third down. And one of our DCs is like, guys, we got to make a play here. What are you gonna do? And one of our coaches, there was a zero blitz. It's called, I believe it was bomb check, and he goes, bomb check them hoes. And so coach is like, I got it. And we're all like, yeah, let's do it. So he calls bomb check. We go zero blitz, and they go over the top to the house. You know, it's just one of those things that in coaching. A lot of stuff happens in the heat of the moment. You know, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. That's one that definitely sticks out as it was almost one of those deals where the day was just going so bad where you just kind of got to sit back and laugh at how it goes.
Now, who's the funniest coach you ever coached with?
Ooh, dang. You know, one of them, and this one kind of hits at home because he just passed away recently, but John Blake, he was our D-line coach at Nebraska. He used to be the head coach at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You know, one of those guys, you walk into the office and he got you laughing from the second you get in there. You know, he was a good dude. He got some flack, you know, over the years for some things, but you know, he was a guy that made you laugh, and you know, even when things were super serious, like he could always keep it light in the office. You know, so many coaches are characters. You know, I think of like Keith Clark, the O-line coach at Dartmouth. The guy's classic. I love him. I love all those coaches at Dartmouth. You know, they were great to work with. So there's a lot of funny guys in the profession. There really is, because I mean, you got to have a sense of humor to do it. You know, you got to be able to laugh at yourself as well.
Who's the top player in your mind right now that you have scouted? Just the player that you were completely impressed with, that has taken that it pops into your brain. Oh, I remember him. This is special.
That's in high school right now,
or in college, or playing in NFL, or any of that.
Oh, geez. That's hard, Coach. Man, there's thousands of kids.
Yeah.
You know, I think of a few, geez. I mean, that's hard. There's just so many, Pete. Make me choose either college right now or high school right now.
I'll do college right now.
College right now. Oof. Dang. That didn't make it any easier. Gosh, you're gonna kill me because I'm burning up your time. Dang. I really don't know. That is hard. I really don't know.
I got you now.
You did. You stumped me.
Yep.
You stumped me. I mean, there's a lot of good ones over the years. You know, you look at guys, you know, some guys who were, you know, big time recruits who went out and panned out like Cole Kmet. And then you've got others, you know, who were maybe under recruited until the end, like Simi Cobbs, who goes to Indiana and then goes on to the Redskins. You've got guys like Raekwon, who was over at Gordon Tech at the time, now DePaul Prep, goes up to Michigan State. You know, there's a lot of guys. There's been a lot of good football to come through here, and I've been blessed to see a number of these guys. I would say a guy who's in high school right now, unfortunately, he transferred out, but you know, you look at J.J. McCarthy. He's probably one of the best, you know, the most pure passers that I've ever seen. there's been a lot of good football coming out of here. I've been blessed to cover it.
Now, last question. Which coach, except your dad, you can't include your dad, has made the biggest impact in your life?
That's hard. Even when your dad's a coach, like, it's still your dad. So you've always had other coaches. I would say, my high school coach was there, Coach Minert. I would probably say Henry Mason. He was my receivers coach at Wisconsin. I grew up around him, and we had that buddy relationship. And then when I got to Wisconsin, there's nobody who could rip my ass better. And you know what? At the time, like, I would get down, I'd be like, I've known this guy. He's never, but like, he just cared. He's just a good dude, and the guy's a great football coach, and I love him to death. So as a player, definitely Coach Mason. Coach Dobes is a mentor, the defense coordinator at Dartmouth, Coach Stevens. There's just so many coaches that have touched my life. Even going up to Darryl Bevel. I grew up around him, wanted to be like him and stuff like that. And, we still keep in contact every now and then. Coach Callahan, he gave me my first job. He taught me a lot about football, a lot about work ethic, a lot about scouting. There's just so many guys that I could mention. I feel bad not mentioning them all. Phil O'Mason, like I could list them out for hours of guys who've touched me on a personal and professional level.
All right, Clint, thanks again for doing the dish.
Oh, I gotta do Tim Brewster as well. Coach Brewster.
Right, Tim Brewster.
Yeah, Coach Brew. He gave me an opportunity. Randy Taylor. I mean, there's so many guys. I'm blessed. Sorry to cut you off. I just didn't want to leave anybody out.
Thanks for joining the dish.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Coach.